Another live stream on the cards. Hopefully spending another great hour answering some great questions about cybersecurity. So hello and welcome, guys. As always, I always say, and I think I made in the last post, that I get so many DMs, so many comments that, I can never answer all of your cybersecurity questions through all of the messages. So we're doing these couple of lives a week to hopefully get your questions answered and talk all things cybersecurity. So we can see some guys coming in. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to spend the next hour or so chatting all things cybersecurity. And hopefully answer some great questions. So as always, guys, drop your questions in the chat. Hello, Encrypted. As always, a bit of housekeeping. Chat gets sometimes extremely busy, so I'll get to your questions, guys. Be patient. Hello, mate. It might take some time, but we'll get most of your questions answered in the next hour, where we talk about cybersecurity career, certificates, degrees, coding, and all kinds of stuff like that. Straight in with let's see, what does I've been talking a lot about this Encrypted. So look, guys, and this is a great, again, message. So Encrypted says, I have an associate's degree in cybersecurity and having a hard time finding something. I can repeat time and time again, guys. Guarantee degree does not get you a job in cybersecurity. The degree is nothing more than any other pretty much certificate. Degree teaches you theory. Are you ready though to do the job? After university, 95% of the time, no. And that's a big gap between skills and knowledge. So yeah, degree is not enough to land yourself a cybersecurity job. And especially nowadays, it's becoming probably harder and harder to get into cybersecurity, where you need to really apply yourself and do a lot of extra than the course or certificate or just a boot camp. Kay says, good day, sir. Firstly, I want to thank you for your videos. They really guided a newbie like me. Yeah, no problem, Kay. Good to see, some people who've seen some of the videos and found them useful. That's the kind of idea, to remove some of the misinformation and some of the, I guess, nonsense that people hear on the grapevine. I say time and time again, I think it's never been more prevalent. I think, most of the people who start their journey in cybersecurity, they've been sold the lie. They've been told, you get one certificate, and then you're going to land yourself a six-figure salary or six-figure cybersecurity job. That's not even remotely close to being the case. Plug and play. Hello, Chief. Hello. Welcome. Yatsik says, I've got a job interview tomorrow, SOC Tier 1. What 100% questions can I expect? There is no 100% questions that you're going to expect, Jacek, but, the typical question is going to be, like, do you actually understand the stuff behind the theory? Like, do you understand how DNS works? Do you understand, for example, what happens when you type in a URL in a browser? Can you actually explain? But the main thing is, obviously, I don't know what kind of interview is going to be, because there's loads of different interviews, and there's loads of crap interviews nowadays where people ask, stuff that you're supposed to memorize. When I interview people, I want to find out how you think. Can you investigate the incident? Do you understand how attacks happen? Do you understand how do you prioritize various attacks? What is, what's the difference between false negative and false positive? Stuff like that. So, you can Google and you can find loads of different questions, and there's no guarantee what's going to be in those interviews. A mate says, AZ900 try hack me cert level 1, IC2CC preparing for the AZ104, never got an interview. Yeah, because you're studying a lot of mishmash. I always say, the one thing I think most of you guys overlook as well, this is like a massive mishmash of certificates. Like, mate, the simplest way is to figure it out. Are you just learning everything, as it goes, or you have a specific path and learning towards something? Like, you want to be a SOC analyst? Now go to LinkedIn, find 10 job specs of SOC analyst, and look what they are looking for. Chances are nobody's going to be looking for ISC2CC. Nobody's going to be asking for AZ900. They're all going to be asking for Security Plus. That's like 90% of the time is going to be there. And then secondly, once you've done one certificate, Security Plus, that's the kind of entry level knowledge. Then it's all about skills. I see this time and time again, guys. Everyone in this journey is becoming a certificate collector, but they don't have any clue what's behind those certificates. And nobody wants people like that. I would never hire a person like that who's got 10 certificates but can't explain me how to investigate attack end to end, how to configure tools, how to prioritize vulnerabilities. How does attack look like from network perspective and endpoint perspective? How to build SIEM analytic rules. That's what you need in a job. You don't need masses of certificates. Please share about what kind of hands-on tools like labs and so on to get into the industry. Well, it's role dependent, so I can't be talking about this for hours plug and play, but you guys need to, ask specific questions. Toby says I passed Security Plus today. Great stuff. Congratulations, Toby. Well done. Do I need CompTIA Security Plus for GRC? Yes, you do. Joni ICT, do I have to be good at math to get into cybersecurity? No. What are you doing with maths in cybersecurity? Hello, Mus. Hello. I have a page, but they... that means. What can I study if I choose the SOC path? Security Plus, networking, and building a home lab, EDS. Hack the box, where to start? Start with the easy boxes. Find the retired boxes where people have already done some of the walkthroughs so you can follow along. That's where you start. Hi, Mohammed. Izar says, good evening, Dr. Powell. Hello. Sure, we're not missing anything. Just landed an internship at defense contractor as an IT admin. Good stuff. Good to hear, Kizar. Amazing. Taking CYSA in 3 days. Wish me luck, bro. Have net and sec plus at the moment. Enjoy your contact. Great stuff. Good luck, Ultimate. As long as you've done, plenty of practice exams and you, especially, if you got Jason Dion's from Udemy, if you're getting consistently 80%, 85% plus, you're good to go, Ultimate. Thanks, Panos. Thank you. Henry says, taking my Network Plus in 1 hour. Any tips? Can't really give you much tips, as long as you've done practice exams and you are prepared, do not panic. You can skip questions. You can always come back. Make sure, you read through the questions and sometimes do an elimination. Works better. I think, if you've never done CompTIA exams, they're always trying to kind of trip you up the way they word stuff. So be careful and take your time reading stuff. I'm going to college to learn cybersecurity. Any tips? Yes, build yourself a home lab. Hi, Vivek. Hello. Welcome. Samurai says, do you have any better team that we as beginner can get into? What do you mean better team? Hi, Hasium. Hello. It's good to go for AZ500 after completing the AZ900 fundamentals. Again, unknown host. It's very vague and weird question. Good for what? You remember, guys, and that's what I'm saying. I keep talking about it. You guys just becoming a cert collectors. Which is the next best cert? What next cert to do? It's not certificates. It's skills where you need to acquire. It doesn't matter what certificate you're going to do next. And you have to be very intentional if you're doing certificates, what you're doing them for, you know, depending on what you want to do. If you want to do GRC, AZ500 is useless for you. So it's all going to be role dependent. Dance courses are good. Yes, they're good, but they're 5K a pop. So I would never recommend doing them because they're extortionately expensive. Is Hack the Box good for employment? I don't think so because I've never seen them on any job specs. Is it a requirement for a university? No, you don't need to go to university. There is no job for a fresher industry and offensive side, Vivek. I'm 15, working through different certs. I'm going to enlist in the Navy as a cyber warfare tech at 18. Good stuff, Mason. Yeah, all the best. How'd you be a VP and a consultant? I'm not a consultant. I run my own business, Cyber Secrets. Yellow. I just did Google certification in cybersecurity. What can I do next? How long is a piece of string, Yellow? What to do next? What for? Vinny says, what's the #1 certification people look for? Again, it's all role dependent, but you know, the most important one to start with for the newbies is Security Plus. Nivo says, next month I'm doing my OSCP. Great stuff. OSCP is kind of the gold standard for offensive security. Mo lifts advice for uni student that want to be a pen tester. Hack the box. You know, learn how to document, learn how to write reports, build yourself a home lab, you know, Van Hub machines, DVWA machines, just practice your skills. You need to learn the methodology, you know, how to do reconnaissance, how to do remuneration, how to do privilege escalation, and stuff like that. Big poke. Any free courses for ethical hacking? There is no. It's pointless doing any free courses. Of architecting in cybersecurity. You have some advice for me? I would say have a look at some of the architecture courses. I think AZ, is it 104 or something like that? Obviously, you know, learning the AWS Azure architecture fundamentals. There's loads of great material for both clouds. Exploring, you know, frameworks such as TOGAF and stuff like that, Keelan. Can I IT support first before jumping into SOC? Yeah, of course. You know, getting IT experience is a great way to pivot into cybersecurity. Yeah. CompTIA Security Plus first. Yeah. Yes, Arthur. How popular are remote jobs in the cybersecurity networking fields? They're becoming rarer and rarer because most of the companies want people back in the office now after COVID. So it's not that common anymore. Is working for government a bad sign for private companies? It really depends, Way. I don't think it's a bad sign, but obviously various companies look for various things, so it all depends. It depends, you know, it all depends on your skills and how you can showcase those skills on your CV and talk through an interview. Where you worked for before is not necessarily kind of, you know, is going to prevent you from moving into private companies or anything like that. Iron Hack Bootcamp, any opinion? No, I've never heard of it. So, yeah, again, I would never advise for any boot camps because I think it's a waste of money. You can do everything the same through self-learning and save a ton of money. Any crossover opportunities for someone coming from e-discovery and litigation support space? Yeah. I mean, anything you've done before can never be discounted as an experience, for future. So, it's definitely going to be helpful in your career. You obviously, as long as you can translate some of the skills that you learned and showcase that how they're useful, then yeah, of course. And as I said before, guys, I'm gonna kick people out. There's no need to put the same message 10 times in a chat. There's 70, 80 messages in a queue. I'm gonna get to it. The more you're gonna spam, I'm just gonna skip the questions, guys. If you can't be patient and wait for it, there's no point to spam the chat. If you know a CTF, please. Is it better to be a generalist, decent at everything, or a specialist? It's always better to be a specialist. Always. Because the thing is when you're a generalist, you're never going to learn enough and be broad enough. Cybersecurity field is massive. So it's always better to specialize in something. MZI says, everyone is suggesting starting with Sec+. What's wrong with A+ if you're... There's nothing wrong. I'm not, by no means... look, MZI, what I always suggest with people is, if you're completely new, I suggest Security Plus as a first certificate, though. I'm not discounting the knowledge and material from A+ and Network Plus. Like, if you don't have enough computer hardware operating system knowledge, you definitely need to watch all of the A+ videos from Professor Messer. You can do the pre-security path on TryHackMe. Then you need to watch all of the Network Plus videos. But that's what I'm saying. You need the knowledge. You don't necessarily need certificates from them unless you're going to go for a first help desk job. But there's no point wasting money on certificates, but you definitely need the knowledge from them. Because you can't secure computers unless you understand how they operate. You can't secure networks unless you understand networking. So if you just jump straight into Security Plus, you're going to be totally lost. So yes, you definitely need all of that previously if you're completely new. Is CISP suffering? Suffering from what, Orange Cloaked? I think the problem is, I think people laud CISP as the kind of golden magical certificate. I always say to people, look, you only go for CISP if you want to go into leadership. Otherwise, there's no point wasting your money and time. And you have to remember that you can only get CISP if you've got 5 years worth of experience. So, and loads of people who have it, after some years, they get fed up of paying maintenance fees because you need to pay every year for holding it. So it gets at some point when you've been, like myself, when you've been a CISO for 3-4 years, it gets to the point where there's no point in having it anymore. I passed it once, I got CISP, I got CISM, I got all of them, but at some point I'm going to stop paying for it because it's not worth, why would I pay for it? Is TryHackMe certificate like SAL1 worth it? Guy says, well, it really depends, worth it for what? I always say, there are kind of two distinct certificates. There are certificates that beat the ATS and HR systems and actually employers want, and there are certificates that are potentially helpful to advance your knowledge and skills. So probably SAL falls into the latter stage. And if you got an extra money, because the thing is, I always say, you can do the path in getting, for example, a SOC job, spending $400 or $500, and you can do it for $2,000. It all depends how much money you got in a pocket, and if you want to do all of these extra certificates, that's going to advance potentially your knowledge. But look, it's never, some of these things is never a necessity. You're just filling up a pocket of a training company. A cyber degree is worth it. No, they're not worth it. What's the best way to learn cybersecurity by yourself? By being methodical, by working hard, and by being consistent. I think the biggest problem is people lack consistency and they jump from one thing to another. You build yourself a training plan, chat with ChatGPT, chat with Claude, explain what you want to do, how you want to develop. I've got on my YouTube guys as well, I keep saying, you know, I've built now 4 roadmaps. I got the full roadmap, what you need and what it takes to become a SOC analyst, how to get into GRC, how to become cloud security engineer. Tomorrow I'm publishing a full pen testing or ethical hacking path, full roadmap of what it takes to get to become an ethical hacker or a pen tester. So that drops tomorrow on YouTube. So again, link is in my bio description. Go and check it out, you know, and follow that path. You know, be consistent, and that's how you do. Can you study cybersecurity online? Of course you can. Yeah, well, that's the best way to study. Cloud sec or network security for internship? If I was you, Dong, I would go for cloud security. CCNA or not? I had many of these debates, Ziad, but I honestly think it all depends what you want to do. But I honestly think if you're going into cybersecurity, you don't need CCNA. CCNA is network engineering certificate. We're not building networks. We're not engineering networks in cybersecurity. We're doing cybersecurity. So you need to learn and understand fundamentals. But you don't need to know and learn how to configure switches and firewalls, you know, to some extent. So I always say network plus is enough. Some people argue that CCNA, but I don't think you need the CCNA. You don't need to go into that depth and spend, you know, extra 3-4 months, because, you know, CCNA, it's a hard certificate. It normally takes people 3 to 4 months, while Network Plus you can do in a month. Tay says, I feel very discouraged at the moment. I have CRISA, BTL1, AZ500, and BSc cybersecurity. Can't get a job. Cybersecurity is really tough, Tay. You know, there's no magic thing I can tell you, but the problem, you know, but from what you just said to me, you won't be able to get a job, because all you did is listed certificates and degree, and that is not enough in cybersecurity. That doesn't show me that you've done above and beyond and you have the skills. All that says to me, Tay, that you understand the theory and you can answer multiple choice questions. That doesn't show me that you've got the skills. You understand how to do vulnerability management. You understand how to investigate incidents. You understand how to configure EDR, SIM, vulnerability management tooling, how to look and investigate network attacks. That's not enough. And that's what I'm saying. There's a big gulf of what you guys think you need and what you actually need. And that's where the big difference is, why people can't find jobs. Yusuf says, do you mentor people trying to own their own cybersecurity business? No, I don't really have time, Yusuf. You know, I'm slammed with all of the stuff that's currently going on, so I don't really have time for that. I barely have time to schedule some of these live streams. Where's the best way to study Computer Security Plus? Very simple. Professor Messer YouTube videos, Jason Dion's practice exams. That's all you need. Watch the whole free videos, do the practice exams so you understand where your gaps in knowledge are, and then revise, take notes. So make sure, you know, when you watch videos, guys, take notes. Whenever you take notes, it's easier to memorize and remember things from what you watched. So that's a great way to kind of learn and study things. Come to finish. I can come security maestro, but it's gonna cost like a $1,500 a day. What's the most important certificate to get in cybersecurity? Security Plus. Oh, lost wheel. Oh, the messages again. 2 seconds. We answered this. We answered that. Are you in the UK? Yes, I'm in the UK, Adele. Just started my cybersecurity journey. Be my mentor. Can I DM you? No, you cannot, Sion. That's why I do these lives, because I do not have time, I'm afraid. Cybersecurity be replaced by AI? No, it won't be. Any advice for computer science now in second year? Can't really give you advice in computer science. Is it true AI is taking over entry-level roles? Some of them, not all of them, but there's still opportunities out there. I just graduated with MSc Cybersecurity. What tips would you give me to land a job in UK? I can't give you tips because you didn't say what job you're trying to land, Adil. Three best websites to learn cybersecurity for free. Try Hack Me, Hack the Box, Let's Defend. How much cybersec should a software dev know? You don't necessarily need to know cybersecurity, but you need to understand how to secure and write, proper code. So you need to understand things like OWASP top 10. You need to understand what are API security standards. For example, what is OWASP? I think it's called, what is it called? ASVS. I think they have application security verification standard of up to 3 levels that shows you all kinds of patterns how to write proper and secure code. But you don't necessarily need to know kind of, cybersecurity principles. Graphic design, 3 project management. I'm changing careers. Okay. How's Try Hack Me for you? Please rate me as I have a basic understanding. Try Hack Me is great. Try Hack Me is a great AI versus CISO. What is that? Was that to AL? I'm not sure what you mean by that. How to find work? By looking. Would you think of value-added distributor in the cybersecurity space? I struggle to understand where the value addition comes, AG, if being honest. Distributors, I think they're kind of doing loads of similar things, and I struggle normally. All they want to do is just sell you stuff that you most of the time don't need. So you build partnerships, with some of these distributors that you normally work with for ages, and it's all based on relationship and trust. Problem is with people, loads of people in sales don't understand how CISOs want to purchase and how to build trust. All they talk is about, the features and the products, and that's not enough. Which is better, being cybersecurity specialist or analysis? That question doesn't make sense, North Grace. The big 1830. What's entry-level roles for network cloud security? Well, it's junior cloud security engineer. You got cloud security analyst roles. Network, I'm not really sure because I don't really deal with network kind of roles. Zara says, I'm 37, totally new to IT. I was thinking of AWS cloud, but I've been thinking of Sec Plus first. Any advice? But if you're totally new to IT, then you definitely don't start with Sec Plus, MZI. You start with, go to YouTube. First 2 months, your assignment would be watch all A Plus and Network Plus videos, and then you can start into Sec Plus, and only then you can look at cloud security concepts once you've done that. Do you know? AL says, do you know Wazoo? There is an AI open source that can socket. You can't socket, but yeah, of course I know what Wazoo is. Where can we do self-learning then entering? You do self-learning at home. Where else would you do North Grace? YouTube. That's all you need. What is phishing? Phishing is type of attack that happens via email. So people normally send emails with the disguised URLs that normally becomes as a credential harvesting kind of link, essentially. Sometimes they're link that looks like, people do normally things that look like, for example, Microsoft. So you will log in there, without knowing what it is. And they will steal, obviously, your username and password. And then, they can hack into companies. What's the difference between public IP and private IP? That's the difference. One is public and one is private. So private IP is not accessible from outside the network. Can I start from red teaming if I'm trying to break a security field? Yes, you can, trollers, but it's going to be very hard. As I said tomorrow, which in the roadmap that's going to drop, ethical hacking or pen testing, however you call it, is the hardest role to enter in cybersecurity when you're coming without experience. I'm 15-year-old and I will get full summer for learning cybersec. What real go you can advise? Watch all Professor Messer's A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus videos. Patworks. Security Maestro says, I can't tell if some of these questions are serious or trolling. I can't tell sometimes. The same, Security Maestro. Hey, Alex. I have a question. Is it good to put foundation in programming and lab? I'm not sure what you mean, Alex, by lab windows. It's definitely, programming is going to be helpful, but I always say, you have to be mindful because, again, there's a ton of things that, yes, could be helpful and it's great to learn. But when you are entering into the field, you have to think about what you want to learn that's going to add value to your current junior pathway. Now, yes, you can learn Python and become an expert, but no SOC analyst is currently using Python. You get to Python when you advance your career. Unless you're going straight into ethical hacking, yes, Python is going to be very helpful for you. But if you go in, for example, GRC, you go in SOC analyst, there's little need to learn Python. You do that once you get into the job and want to advance and learn automation, and stuff like that and build your own tools, then yes, by all means. But, I always say, guys, the key goal in the beginning is to land yourself a job. Once you get a job, you get an employer to pay for your certs, for your skills, and develop yourself. Do not waste money on collecting 10 certificates before you apply for jobs. You get one certificate, maximum 2, that are going to be supplemental to each other. And then build home labs, acquire skills, tailor your CV to every application. As I always said, message hiring managers, do a follow-up. All of the roadmaps, what I share, do that, and you're going to land yourself a job. Then you can build yourself a proper career. You should aim for AM for Security Plus. Is it better to use Cisco Academy to self-learn? Well, better as to compare it to what, North Grace? Cisco Academy, obviously, there are one, I think, good course at Cisco Academy, but again, not necessarily better than what? You're doing self-learning, you can do loads of stuff on YouTube. Wesley says, if you want to be a consultant after venturing into GRC, do you need certs if you have the knowledge? No, you don't need certs. For a beginner with only certs, which profession is better? There's no better profession. That question doesn't make any sense, Mags. There's no better profession. It's all depending what certs and what skills you got. That's two completely different polar opposites, so it doesn't make sense. And what about going into SAP security? I'm not sure there is much stuff to do in SAP security. Previously worked in pen testing, but it started to be too boring. Would you recommend me to try? Security engineering, Peter. What about going to SAP security? I have a degree in accounting and into cybersecurity. Do you think I should do A+? You don't need to do Profalius A+, but you definitely need the knowledge from it. Do you see a future in post-quantum cryptography? Of course. Pano says, I go for SOC analyst for the start and I want to change to red team later. Is a good path? Yeah, of course. Because you can't, normally most of the time, Panos, you can't get straight into penetration testing. So red teaming or, so starting in SOC is a great way to go. Yes, do you use anything to crawl sites like GitHub for things like keys and credentials? No, because we do not currently use GitHub for our organization, so I don't really need stuff like that. But I use other tools, but not to crawl sites. I use tools to obviously crawl the code to find, hard-coded credentials, hard-coded keys, and stuff like that. So, yeah. What advice would you give me for a trainee program in DeFi? I don't really know any trainee programs in DeFi, but obviously the one thing you need to be good at Baralio is learn FTK, because that's the main tool you're going to use in forensics. It's too many to list Cryptkeeper, I mean, in terms of projects that can give you. But if you go to YouTube, my home lab or SOC home lab video has got loads of projects at the end of the video that I explain and talk to. Stuff like, the main things what you do is, you just get yourself some vulnerable machines and then you can run some metasploitable attacks. And then you can, detect those attacks, for example, with Wireshark and look how these attacks look from networking perspective. You can drop in the zoo agent on the vulnerable machines, and then you can look how these attacks look like from endpoint perspective. You can obviously push then all logs into somewhere like the zoo. So you see attacks in a SIM. Then you figure out how to build analytic rules to detect those attacks, how you can prevent those attacks from happening in the future. So that's the kind of projects you want to do. Can you do a tier list of the best OSINT tools? No, I cannot, Taco. I don't really use any OSINT tools, so I couldn't really help you in that space. Would I be more likely to be employed if I go bachelor's in IT or in cybersecurity? Neither of them is going to be improve your likelihood in no shape or form, Ace. Hi, are you taking LinkedIn or CV so you can judge it? Neither. Hey, Alex. Please, what's the link to your YouTube channel? It's in my bio. Go into my bio description. You're gonna see a link to my YouTube Avicii, because I can't post the link here in the chat for some reason. What type of math? There's no type of math involved in cybersecurity, Marcus. I'm learning C++. Okay, Salva. It's cool, but there's nothing to do with cybersecurity. You work as SOC specialist? No, I do not. I work as a CISO, so I'm a Chief Information Security Officer. Do you think try Hack Me or VirtualBox project's better to get a job? Better than what, HJ? The question is, they're good as a starting point, but they only take you so far. And the next level up is building a home lab. Is C++ good? Good for what, Salva? Where you from? I'm from UK, best of Leeds, but I'm originally from Lithuania, but I've been living in UK for the last 18 years or so. Cybersecurity is much easier than networking. No, it's not. It definitely isn't, Zach. What is privilege escalation? Well, in simple terms, for example, when you do ethical hacking or penetration testing, normally what you'll do is you'll find credentials for a normal user. the real goal is to elevate those privileges or that role into getting admin or root privileges. So that's what it is. You know, that exercise is called privilege escalation. Cybersecurity is more administration. I don't know, where is the question in here? So can you guide me? I can't guide you, but you can watch Hamlefel. There is a full roadmap on my YouTube. Why do cybersecurity people think it's more superior than networking? I don't think nobody thinks that, Zach. It's no way, shape more superior. Africa now, is degree the best way forward? No, definitely not. Kishan, hi Kishan, yeah. I'm streaming on a few platforms, so not only YouTube, TikTok, and Twitch mainly. What is my ethnicity? What do you think? You can see, I assume, IR. Hello, Rons. Yeah, glad you joined too. Hey man, I just go there. How do you judge a fresh graduate to know if he is worth hiring? Most of the time, Rafik or Rafkik, I don't know what it says. I wouldn't hire a fresh graduate. They're not ready. If you just graduated, the chances are all you did is learn the theory. So unless I got a specifically graduate job, but I wouldn't hire a graduate job. I would hire junior people who went through self-learning, because that's a way harder path. And most likely they built home labs and acquired necessary skills. You know, I've interviewed many people who came fresh from university. They couldn't answer, 80% of the questions. Opinion on ransomware containment solutions. Well, I think there are some interesting solutions coming out, Tim. I think Halcyon is doing some interesting stuff. I've kind of evaluated a few of those solutions, but obviously they're quite expensive. I think, it's really dependent if you've got a real ransomware risk and what, kind of your risk appetite. But they're potentially, a decent kind of addition for big enterprise companies. They cost prohibitive for smaller organizations. But yeah, I think there's potential in there. Is more. I don't know what you're talking about, Zach. Terminology is not important in cybersecurity. Currently studying CCIE. What is your? I can't give you advice, Sabit. Does degree matter? Bochel says no. It definitely doesn't matter. Okay, what to do to get your first bug bounty? Can't really help you here. Office says, I want to know whether hackers can steal and retrieve data from VPN devices. Yeah, of course they can. If it's, if your VPN device has vulnerabilities and, firmware is not updated, then yeah, of course they can. How do you stop self-modified source code language that grow like fungi in the system? I don't really know. I never come across of that, Avram. What do you think about CompTIA CYSA+? Is it worth it? It really depends what you're doing, Boris. If you go Security Plus, I wouldn't really necessarily pursue CYSA+. I think there's better certs if you want to get a second cert. But most of the time, I wouldn't bother, getting too many certs. It's all about the skills. What certificate do I need to be accepted to work and become a routine? OSCP. You need OSCP. Kishan was I work entry-level job in SOC and we are doing boring and cumbersome tasks, talking and send emails to customers. We use SIM tools. How can I use this job to learn? I assume you're talking about maximum, Kishan. By being proactive. That's how you do. Obviously, as you say, you already got SIM tools, EDRs, XDRs, etc. It's about advancing the skills. Where do you want to be next? I can't answer the question without you asking something properly. What certs do I need to get an entry-level desk job? A+. That's all you need, pretty much. I'm planning on going. Ben says I'm planning to go on cloud security. Someone said all road leads to SOC analyst. Is that true? No, definitely not, Ben. There's plenty of other roles aside from SOC. Steph says a Microsoft course is helpful. Yeah, of course. If your company is going to be using Microsoft tools, then yeah, of course they're going to be helpful. Or Microsoft Cloud, then yeah. What's required reading to become cybersecurity architect? You need to learn about frameworks. So, there are Azure architecture certificates, there is AWS, then learning frameworks like TOGAF and things like that. Do you suggest volunteering for small companies to gain experience? Yeah, there's definitely a way to go away. Yeah. Volunteering, especially for charities, the people or companies that really struggle, to get people who struggle with spending money. It's definitely a way to kind of go and try and kind of upskill yourself and see if you can help them. Even helping them, 1 day a week or something like that. It's always going to be kind of helpful to your career and gain potentially skills and knowledge. Kim Young says, here's a question for you. Is Google Search a service that requires TPRM? No, of course it doesn't. You do TPRM with the companies that you sign a contract with. You have Google Search, you have no impact on it. So there's no point really doing TPRM for it. The GRC hard. Well, define hard, I guess. It's hard if you have no clue about all of it. What do you think about CC exam? Is it great for a beginner? I think it's a waste of money and space. Yeah, of course, terminology is not important, Zach. I think people talk too much about, acronyms and all of that. Cybersecurity is not about terminology. It's about understanding. What's the best way to get into this industry? I'm 21-year-old with A-levels in computer science. By building yourself a self-learning path. So, jump on YouTube, Harvey, look at some of the roadmaps that I talk about. And then, explore it. Do you know MTCNA? No, I don't know. Do you need cloud knowledge for cybersecurity? Yeah, potentially, because obviously most of the organizations are, I think latest statistics shows that 98% of the companies are hybrid. So obviously they have some form of cloud deployments, and especially most of the companies are moving towards the cloud. So yeah, cloud is always going to be a helpful skill to have. Marwa, there is no best between computer science and cybersecurity. It's all going to be dependent on you. That's what I'm saying. Whenever people ask this kind of question, I cannot advise you what to choose. Only you can decide what is best for you in your career. You want to be, a software developer, or you want to work in cybersecurity, and only you can answer that. I can't answer and suggest what is better. How important are CTF solving for getting your first job? I wouldn't say they're very important, Sveti. They definitely can help, but, home labs is way more important than doing CTFs. What's entry-level job for cloud security then? Well, it's, any kind of junior security engineering or cybersecurity analyst kind of roles. That's kind of the roles. Big up on Tinu says, yeah, big up on Tinu as well. Python used a lot, and in what? Yeah, Python is used, it's mainly used in a couple of things. So if you're going to go into any red teaming, ethical hacking, penetration testing roles, Python is going to be used a lot. And in any security engineering, obviously anywhere where you're going to work towards automation, Python is going to be used quite a lot, yeah. I wouldn't suggest any career path, Sean, to anyone. I would suggest them to doing their own research and figure out what they want to do. I wouldn't suggest something. Do Illumio is worth to learn? I have no idea what that is, Nabo. Is that normal to leave the field cybersecurity and start learning data analysis? I wouldn't say it's normal, but yeah, obviously, in this, I wouldn't say data analysis, but in this field of AI, there's people moving into data science, and that's definitely a credible career path, because that's going to be only going to grow and become bigger and bigger. Neil says, I'm a cybersec lead, but hit with pay barrier at 99K, 7 years experience, no certs. What can I do? It really depends on the question, Neil, on what you want to do. You just want to earn more money, or you want to advance your career and progress and going from sec lead to what? Management, leadership? That, because those two are completely different things, and that really kind of depends. And obviously, sec lead, again, if you want to stay, as I say, if you want to move and stay in leadership, that's a completely different path to staying technical. So yeah, if you can tell me what you want to do, and then we can try and talk about that. Best entry-level job in industry. There is no best. No impact, then why is Google asking for privacy consent? Yeah, because they're collecting data. Anyone who's collecting data, you need to get privacy consent. But you're not doing TPRM as an individual, are you? Anyone who's using Google search, you're not going to do TPRM on Google. It doesn't make sense, Kim. I don't know what you're talking about. Or you don't know what you're talking about. What do you think about CompTIA Security Plus? Yeah, Security Plus is a great certificate. It's one of the best, for starting your career, Nabel. Yeah, that's the same. Kento, hello, mate. How often are you using Flare VM? Never, UGC. How do you remove RAT, specifically 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐸? I don't know, if you got some kind of antivirus software, that's how you probably would remove its stake. What do you think about AI model security? Will ever get as secure as something more controllable? Yeah, of course. There's lots of great standards now coming out about, model security, and obviously there are security tools that kind of scans to understand not only model security, but hallucinations, bias, and all of that. There's a lot of research going into that. So yeah. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Really hard to say, Wei. I don't know. I'm kind of torn between moving up into sort of chief information officer or chief technology officer and staying technical, or moving towards something to do with AI and kind of I'm really torn and have not really kind of decided. Neil says, earn more money but hate management. I'm more hands-on. Well, Neil, you know, I always say, you know, people whenever you get to a plateau to kind of earning money, I know it's a sensitive subject to some people, but I always say, for example, moving into contracting, that's kind of a great way to, you know, break that plateau, because depending on the skills you have, you know, engineering skills or kind of lead skills and stuff like that, you can probably earn yourself 600-700 quid a day. That's, you know, way more than 99k. That's one way to do it. Secondly is, you know, is do an honest skills assessment. Like, where are you lacking? Where do you want to go? You know, you want to, if you worked in security engineering, can you move towards DevSecOps? Or, you know, upskill yourself in security engineering? For example, the one path where I always say, Neil, where I think people are struggling especially, is, do you have Kubernetes security knowledge? You know, have you done, not necessarily doing certificates, but learning the material from CKS? That's a great way to kind of upskill yourself and take you to the next level. Expanding the cloud knowledge. Can you do security for multi-cloud deployments and stuff like that? You know, there's always to expand the breadth and of your knowledge, and, you know, potentially. And the thing is, you know, you need to jump around if you want to, you know, get pay rises. You know, I think, you know, a couple of years ago, I went from like 60k to 125k in like 3 years. But I did two company moves. That's why I got there. Okay, we've got the last few minutes. Let me just see what other questions have we got. What's the best to do as a 16-year-old getting into cybersecurity? I'll study at uni. Building yourself a home lab, Habib. That's the most important thing you need to do. Do you think cyber tools help companies be more compliant with frameworks like NIST, DORA? Yeah, definitely. Especially, you know, well, some of these tools, there are tools in GRC space that allows you to understand and assess yourself against the framework readiness. And there are tools that definitely, yeah, work towards helping in terms of NIST and DORA compliance. Yeah. Best anonymous messenger for iOS, Android. I don't really know. I think still the only thing you probably can do is Telegram. I'm not really well versed in kind of anonymous messaging. Remy says, hello from London. Hello from London indeed, mate. Welcome. Atto Guide. Can't promise you if I remember, I'll definitely have a look, Pisser. Do you think a computer science degree is still worth getting now? No, I don't think any cybersecurity or computer science degree is worth doing it at all. Is the job market cooked? I see entry-level jobs that require so many certification experience. No, I don't think it's cooked. I think the problem is, Shimon, is that, you know, it looks cooked because most of the people that are hiring, they don't have a clue how to differentiate those people. And secondly is, again, currently, I think that the big problem is that it's employers' market. So there's so many people out of work. They create and, you know, put unrealistic expectations because they don't know how else to assess and sift through the talent. And that's the problem. And that's why I always talk about, you know, about messaging the hiring manager, doing the follow-up messages, how to stand out from the crowd instead of just, you know, sending apply and that's it. Do you think I can get in cybersecurity role like analyst if I only have 1 year IT technician experience? Well, if you don't do anything, then you definitely can't. If you're going to upskill yourself and get the necessary certificates and skills, then of course you can, says Carnage. I need some advice. I need to try being an infrastructure engineer, but don't have any experience. Is OSCP worth the price? Yes, Ala. I think, you know, OSCP is the gold standard if you want to go into pen testing or red teaming. It's the best certificate that there is. Where did you get your LED? I got it from Amazon. You can have a look. Because obviously there are some really great ones, and there are some, I looked at them, I think there are some really expensive ones for like £120, but I bought Amazon ones for like 20 quid, because they can change lights and you can do patterns, but obviously when I'm recording, I just want to keep one light. Is DevSecOps more new people friendly or DevSecOps is kind of a mishmash of skills, you know. So you need to be able to obviously read and understand code. You need to understand how to deploy security tools into the pipelines. You need to understand how to do threat modeling, and you need to teach developers a good security coding practices. So it's a lot involved in DevSecOps. So normally it's not necessarily kind of an entry level friendly role, I would say. What's the main issues you see with cyber resilience right now that will it look like in the future? I think the main thing what I see, Ratu, is I think, you know, back in the day, we used to think about companies as a perimeter. So, you know, we had firewalls at the edge of our network, and that was the perimeter. I think the perimeter is nowadays changing. I think identity is becoming the new perimeter. So your IAM and your PAM sort of tooling and practices becomes the number one important thing in cybersecurity. And secondly, with the rise of AI and all of the automation and all of that, there's another rising risk. It's non-human identity. So all of the API keys, all of the machine service accounts and things like that. You know, some companies, I think latest statistic shows that there is 80 non-human identities for every human identity in a company. So being able to secure them, being able to audit them and understand what they have access to, which ones are dormant and needs to be removed, that's going to be the real cyber resilience risk that's going to continue to rise in, you know, next few years. Some markets like Norway haven't recognized GRC, and I wanted to move in that route. Advice. I can't really give you advice to move into GRC if where you are that doesn't exist. You know, I can't really help you in that space. But sorry guys, I'm gonna have to wait. I'm gonna leave. It's been an hour. I have to jump and have some food. I just came from the gym. But as always, guys, I'm gonna love you and leave you. You know, it's amazing. Always help. You know, nice to chat to people, answer some of your questions, and hopefully, you know, some of the information I provided you found helpful. I'm gonna try and do another live this week. It's either tomorrow or Thursday. You know, as I say, guys, you know, look at my YouTube videos, look through the roadmaps. You know, the information is out there, you know, and I'm trying to provide that to help you guys. There's a lot of misinformation and a lot of lies that most of you guys been told. And, you know, you need to get through that. And, you know, cybersecurity is not the dream that someone promised you. It's hard work. It's really hard to get into cybersecurity. It becomes easier once you're inside, but that first step requires a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, you know. But I honestly talk about it a lot because I myself went through a self-learning path 10 years ago. I built my whole training plan for myself, and I got my first cybersecurity job in 8 months without any degree, without any boot camp. I just did 2 certifications, built myself a home lab, and I did a ton of work and studying, you know, from 3 to 4 hours every single day off when I had. And I got there. So you can do it too, but it's not going to be an easy road. So keep grinding, guys, and I'll see you on the next live stream. Have a good evening, guys.